It was in one of the reports that I was reading. This is a quote via the spokesperson Mark Adams, and he's referencing something that the president of the IOC said, which was one. He says, if somebody can find a medical consensus of what is a man and what is a woman, we are happy to work with them. Until then, we have conflicting ideas. We have to work with what we have unless everybody wants to go back to sex testing. And one, this is a really confusing statement because I think that there is medical consensus on what's a man and what's a woman. There's no, conflict there. It's quite easy as you've just described. But also, why is that a threat? Unless you want to go back to sex testing. I think we do want to go back to sex testing.
They kept using the term, we don't want to go to the bad old days of sex verification. Oh yeah, we do. We want there to be gatekeeping. Once again, like you did in the 90s, we're not talking about the naked parade in front of a bunch of doctors or the humiliation of women. We're talking about a cheek swab, and everybody, was perfectly capable of telling everyday citizens to do the cheek swab during COVID, and that was never a human rights abuse. But suddenly they're acting like, how dare you stick a Q-tip in a mouth and swab the cheek, which is hilarious, because if you actually know what goes on in sports in the international realm to do the doping control, has anybody ever explained to you what's involved in like just testing for illicit, illegal drugs in sport? I mean, still to this day, and I had to do it in the 80s because I was on national teams and for Canada in track and field, and it's so humiliating. Like you finish your competition, and a lot of times I was in heptathlon, so it was 2 full days of competition and all these combined events, multi-events, and you're dehydrated, you have no fluid left in your body, and now you're supposed to produce 1 cup of urine, like for their testing. And because people used to cheat and bring in pig's bladders in the 80s, and some of the Russian women or East Germans would bring in pig's bladders with other people's urine in it to cheat the test. They now these days, ever since in those times, from then until now, you have to have a nurse in the cubicle with you while you're peeing to watch you pee. Like, it's hard. Like, it's so hard to pee even when somebody's watching you. It's humiliating. And now you're dehydrated, so you're sitting there, and they said, well, dribble a little bit in, go sit on the bench, and we'll keep filling up that cup. And the truth is that is far more invasive and humiliating for anybody, male or female, than doing a cheek swab. And yet they're pretending like, horrors be, you got to do the cheek swab, when they're actually making athletes do this other test that is far more invasive, far more embarrassing. I don't buy their arguments. They think that we're all idiots, that we don't know these things. And it's just, none of their arguments, Megan, make sense in terms of all of these things that we already know, how things work. And yeah, to pretend like we don't know what men and women are anymore. Wow. That's the biggest news to drop. Thomas Bach doesn't know he was born of a woman. Like, I just, I don't know. What are you taking us for? It's incredible.